Welcome back to the Sub 220 Marathon Project video series. This is episode 5, coming out a little bit delayed. I'll explain why after I thank the sponsors of this video series. The main sponsor of this video series is Soar Running, my go-to training and racing apparel brand based out of the UK. I've been enjoying their gear for well over 18 months now, and I've been testing out some of their new designs that you'll see in some of these videos from Kenya in some of the training sessions. I'm a massive fan of Soar, and I'm really excited to share that Soar is producing a Sweat Elite training and racing singlet that you can see just here in the video, and it will be available in the next week or two. Stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Instagram and also Soar Running on Instagram to learn when that launch will be of the singlet. But a huge thanks to Soar for sponsoring this video series. I am a huge fan of all their gear, and I'm actually wearing their jacket right now in this introduction to the video. So thank you, Soar. The second sponsor of this video series is Top 4 Running, my go-to retailer for all racing and training shoes. They are based in Europe, and they have the lowest prices for all of the top brands and top models, most recent models. I've been testing out quite a lot of shoes, and actually this episode features my thoughts on 4 pairs of the latest trainers and racers out in the market right now. I'll go through them in the second half of this video and let you know my opinion on 4 of the most popular trainers and racers at the moment from different brands. The third sponsor of this video series is Pillar Performance, based out of Australia. Relatively new brand, already with Jan Frodeno, one of the world's best ever triathletes, behind them as an ambassador and investor. I have been really enjoying their triple magnesium powder that has really helped me with my sleep. I have struggled with sleep more or less ever since I started this job because I'm always changing beds and hotel rooms and Airbnbs and time zones and all sorts of things. And on top of that, the training also sometimes makes it hard to sleep as well when the cortisol is a little bit high from the training. And the triple magnesium powder from Pillar Performance has really helped me just stay calm in the evenings and sleep better. I strongly recommend that you check out what else Pillar Performance might have that you might enjoy at the link in the description of this video. The final sponsor of this video series that I have been utilizing to the maximum is Precision Fuel and Hydration. I have burned through all the products they sent me at the start of this series. It's funny, I actually asked them for what I thought was enough products for the whole video series. I'm not even halfway through the build, and I've been through their entire range already. I've been enjoying their carb mix, which is really easy on the stomach. I normally mix that with an electrolyte drink. I've been enjoying their carb chews as well, and also their caffeine gels and their 90-gram gels that I've been using throughout this video series that you might have seen. It's basically just 3 gels in one. Very easy on the stomach. I've had absolutely no problems. There's been a couple of times in training I've had to stop, but that's mostly been as a result of the diet in Kenya, not anything to do with the products I'm taking, in my opinion. So I do recommend checking out the link in the description of this video, and you'll also score a small discount. Okay, welcome to episode number 5. So I'm very delayed on posting this video because I've been in Kenya for the last 4 weeks. Many of you might have watched previous episodes to know that I was mostly there for the Sweat Elite Kenya training camp, but I got a little bit sick at the end of the week that I'm about to explain. I didn't get too sick, but I had a stomach virus, and it really threw me around for about 5 or 6 days. And I honestly just really struggled to get the training done and also to produce the video. And on top of that, we had some pretty intense internet issues in Kenya. I think in countries like Kenya and Ethiopia and Uganda, it's not a problem to get internet to be able to use WhatsApp or email or make a phone call or send a text. But to make a video that's in the vicinity of 50 gigabytes and upload that to YouTube, that can be really difficult on multiple levels. The security that Google/YouTube have is also intense. They continuously locked us out and tried to make us prove our identity because we were in Kenya, which is obviously it might be some sort of high risk country for Google. And then when we were trying to upload it to the internet, it was just really difficult. So what I ended up doing is deciding to postpone it a week, wait till I got back to London, where I am only for a day, before heading off to for another trip, and film this intro and upload the video so that there's no hassles with the internet. So apologies for being a little bit late, but I will go through the 5th week of training that went quite well, in my opinion. Once again, like always, I'm going to keep this relatively brief, and you can listen to the entire week in detail on the podcast, which is already out. I was able to upload the podcast episode because the file size is minuscule compared to the size of the YouTube videos. But I'll go through the training week briefly here. So on Monday, the 9th of January, I did an easy 49-minute run in Kenya at 5:09 per kilometre, which is a little bit over 8 minutes per mile. So once again, in Kenya, actually in the next episode, I'm going to talk a lot more about training in Kenya in general, because we get so many questions about it on Instagram. I get so many questions about it on my own Instagram and in the YouTube comments. So I'm going to give a little bit of advice as to how to do it. But in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about the paces and the efforts. Kenya is, Iten in Kenya, which is where most of the top Kenyan and foreign athletes are training, except Kipchoge. He's just down the road in Kaptagat. It's about 2,350 meters elevation, 7,500 feet, 7,700 feet, and it's really hilly everywhere, but there's no huge hills. It's just rolling hills everywhere. So when you see paces on these training sessions, they're wildly different to what they would be, say, if I ran out the door here in London where it's sea level and relatively flat. You're always going up or down a small hill here in Kenya, where I just was. And you really need to slow down, otherwise you will burn yourself out very quickly if you want to keep the same sort of heart rate or effort. I've been trying to do most of my training to effort, and I'll explain why in the podcast as to why that is. In fact, I go through that all the time in the podcast. I don't really look at the heart rate, but I've been pretty good at running to effort, and that's how most of the Africans do. So these paces are 20 to 35 seconds per kilometre, sometimes even more slower than at sea level. So on the Tuesday, I did a 10K run in the morning. So I was actually recovering here from Monday and Tuesday from the special block on the Sunday, where I did 20.9K in the morning and 18.9K in the evening. So I had 2 really easy days. I was just coaching the training camp on the Tuesday morning, so I was just jogging around. My pace is 7:28 per K. I was basically just running for 5 minutes and stopping for a while and taking some photos and taking some splits and then on repeat. On the Wednesday, I started to feel pretty good again. I did 11.3 kilometres, around about 7 miles, more or less, at 5:09 per kilometre with some friends. And in the afternoon, I did another 10K run, 10.5K run at about the same pace, 5:07 per kilometre, a little bit over 8-minute miles there. So 6.5 miles at a little over 8-minute mile pace. And that was when I really started to feel like I was properly recovered from the special block, so on the Wednesday. So I think it took me about 72 hours to feel like I was fully recovered. The next morning, I did a massive workout with Paul Graham. The workout was supposed to be 7 by 3K at marathon effort, which was supposed to be 3:25 per K. I wasn't ready for that, so I knew I wouldn't do it with Paul. Even he probably wasn't quite ready for that. I think his coach might have set him times for sea level, because I think 3:25 per kilometre, which is very close to sub 220 marathon pace. Sub 220 marathon pace is 3:19 per kilometre. Let's do this in miles quickly. These intervals are supposed to be about 5:30, 5:28. Pretty close to sub 220 marathon pace, which is about 5:18, 5:19. You also have to factor in tapering and race day vibes. And I just think that this workout was prescribed a little bit too hard for Paul. So what I did was I basically just did the intervals with him and skipped the floats. So it was supposed to be 7 by 3K with 1K float. I skipped the floats, just did the 7 by 3K, and Paul started to struggle from about rep 2 and I had to slow it right down, so I just ran it with him. I ended up doing 6 by 3K, and then in the last rep, I pulled a pin on the whole rep because I started to feel really fatigued, mostly muscularly, not so much in the energy. And I just did a lap on, lap off with Paul, so 4 400s. That was a fun workout, but why Paul wanted to do it on the track, I have no idea. I mean, I do know why. He wanted to do it on the track because he wanted to hit the times. But doing 27, 28K around a track is just mental torture. So thanks, Paul, for putting us through that. I guess it's probably good for the mind, but not sure if I want to do that again. In the afternoon, so that was in the morning, and then in the afternoon I just did a light ride with Charlie. Charlie, videographer, was doing a workout, so I just rode with him. The next day I actually felt pretty good waking up from that session. I was surprised. I had 10.4K at 5:04 per K, so about 6.5 miles at a little over 8-minute mile pace. And then in the afternoon I did a run by myself, 8K at 4:25 per K pace, a little bit quicker. I ran solo then. I'm really not worrying too much about the paces in these runs. I'm just running purely to how I feel, and I think that's really working well for me at the moment. So that was the Friday. On the Saturday, I did a 10-mile run at 5:25 per k, so pretty slow at about 8:45, 8:50 per mile. Very easy with a friend. Someone commented on that saying, is it difficult to run that slow and does it take any sort of constraint? But I just wasn't really worried about it, just ticking the legs over. And it does bring up the question of, is there such thing as running too slow on easy days? I will answer that question in the next couple of episodes. I want to keep this episode mostly focused around the shoe review. Long run on the Sunday, 38.6k, which I think is right around 24 miles. I wanted to go 40k. I wanted to go almost 25 miles. But the stomach bug hit me on the Friday lightly and it just progressed. And on the Sunday, I was a little bit dehydrated. I was having a hard time on the toilet the day before, on the Saturday. And I knew I was a bit dehydrated at the start of the run because just by going to the toilet, I knew that wasn't as clear as I would have liked to. So the 40k run didn't happen because at around about 36, 37k, I really started to struggle. And I was taking in water and I could just tell I couldn't take in water fast enough. So a little bit unlucky, didn't quite get there, but in the end, a really good run, 38.6k at 4:05 per k pace. Mentioned in the Strava log that I was struggling a little bit towards the end. But yeah, to get almost 40k done is a great run. So yeah, that is the training week. It was 140k, the biggest training week I've done this block. Once again, repeating myself, I'm not really counting the mileage too much, sharing it with you guys because I know you guys would like to track these sorts of things, at least some of you do. So yeah, that's pretty close to 90 miles, I think it's about 88, and I don't see myself going over that now. I think it'll be a little bit under that moving forward. And yeah, pretty consistent looking at that graph. It's always been right around that 130 to 135 mark, except that one light week, that one sort of lower week, with the travel. And yeah, all is good. The stomach bug luckily didn't get me too badly over the coming few days, of which I'll talk about in the next episode. It hung around a bit. It was sort of on and off. That's a very typical thing in Kenya. But ultimately, I was able to get through it and keep the training consistent. So yeah. I would like to transition now over to the shoe review that I did in Kenya, sharing my thoughts on the 4 trainers that Top 4 Running has sent me to test out, and I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to do a short shoe review sponsored by Top 4 Running, the sponsor of this whole Sub 220 Marathon Project video series. I've been trying 4 shoes that Top 4 Running have supplied me with during this training block, and I'll go through each one and share my thoughts on each shoe. But before I do so, I want to firstly thank Top 4 Running for supporting the video series and letting me try out some of the latest shoe models. And secondly, I do want to share, and I have shared this before in a previous video series, that I do like doing these shoe reviews and I definitely love testing the shoes, but shoe preference is pretty individual, I find. These particular, in fact all of these 4 shoes tend to be liked by almost everyone that I've asked that have used them. But I do know that there's some other types of shoes that some people will really enjoy and other people, they just won't suit their foot. So this is my own personal opinion on these 4 shoes. Feel free to do what you like with the opinion and advice. But yeah, I will say that these 4 tend to be pretty well respected and enjoyed by almost everyone that I've asked. So that's definitely interesting to me. So over the last 8 weeks, I have been trying the Nike Alphafly 1. Although those of you that watched the first series will know that I actually was testing these in the previous series as well. I just really like them, so I'm going to give my updated feedback about them. I've also been using the New Balance Fuel Cell Racer. Big fan. This is the New York City Marathon edition, and yeah, I've been enjoying those. I'll go through that in a minute. Asics Super Blast with the the FF Turbo foam. Big fan, huge fan. I'll go through that shortly. And the Adidas Primex, the illegal racer for elite runners, and I'll tell you why that is in a moment for those that don't already know. So yeah, the Nike Alphafly with the ZoomX foam, which from what I believe, and I could be wrong, I think it has the largest stack height out there, at least in the Nike range. I have raced in these in the last few races, and yeah, massive fan. I will most likely, I'm not going to promise because I haven't actually tried the Alphafly 2s yet. I would like to try them before deciding but it depends on if Top for Running will let me try them or not. I'm going to find out actually in the next few days, but I'm going to test next. But the Alphafly 1 is a really good racer. I tend to train in them only for the really specific workouts. I used them this morning in a workout preparing for a half marathon, a 12K with 1K fast, 1K float. And yeah, so far I believe this is probably my favourite racing shoe, and I've tried quite a lot. I've tried some friends' ASICS Metaspeed races. I've tried the Adidas Adios Pro 2s and 3s, and I've tried almost all the other on-running shoes, and this is my favourite so far, although I know that there's quite a lot of new races coming out in the next few months, so I'm curious to see how those are as well. So yeah, I give these a 10 out of 10 for training. 10 out of 10 for racing. Definitely a 10 out of 10 for training too, but I try to keep the races for race day and maybe just 1 or 2 workouts leading up. I try to keep that. I'm not sure if it's psychological or not really, but I try to keep that benefit to the race day or just one of the last, one of the last workouts or 2, just so it gives me a little bit of a boost on the day. But yeah, these are super springy to me, and I really enjoyed wearing them this morning for the first time in a few months because I raced in them beforehand at Berlin Marathon. So yeah, I'm not going to give all of these shoes a grade out of 10, but these really are 10 for me. I think that they're the best ones in the market in my opinion. So the second ones, sorry I didn't do that in order, did I? But the second ones I'm going to review are the ASICS Superblast, and I'll be brutally honest with you, ASICS, I've always liked you as a brand, but I've always thought some other brands were slightly ahead of the game with trainers and racers until this shoe. I really like the Superblast to the point where this is probably my favourite trainer now. If those of you that watched the previous series would know that I was training mostly in the Invincibles, which I'm also a big fan of, I think I would prefer these over the Invincibles. Now, I haven't actually Googled this. Some people have said that these are a good racer. Now, I guess you could train and race in anything you like. There's no rules there. You could race and train in the Nike Pegasus or whatever you like. I'm not sure if I would race in these because they just don't seem super fast compared to something like the Alphafly. But I think they're the absolute perfect everyday trainer. They're very light. This is very soft, but they're a little bit more narrow and not quite as... the Invincible almost feel like you're running on like a small boat. They're really wide here, which is nice. They're very supportive. But I feel like these are maybe a step ahead purely because they don't have that additional foam here that's maybe weighing the Invincible down compared to this. Invincible is super light, but this is lighter. I haven't weighed either, and I haven't even looked it up, but these definitely feel lighter to me. But these are just so comfortable to me, and yeah, if Top for Running let me, I'd honestly continue just wearing these in future build-ups. And yeah, so I've been using these for all my easy runs, even for some sort of steady state runs, but I haven't really gone any quicker than, say, marathon pace in these yet. And I think that you could probably run pretty fast over a marathon in these, but I don't think they would be as fast as these. I think you'd be a few seconds per kilometre quicker in these. So yeah, thank you once again, Top for Running, for allowing me to try the ASICS Superblast. I'm a huge fan. I strongly recommend these to anyone for training, for more or less anything, but I have been doing easy runs and long runs and steady runs in the ASICS Superblast. Okay, the next one's the New Balance Fuel Cell. So I wasn't sure what these were specifically for when I first tried them on, but I have been informed that they are for racing, and I think that they would be great for racing. I do not think that they would be as fast as the Alphafly. I think that you probably all gathered that almost nothing to me would be quite as good as the Alphafly for racing, that is. But I think these are really good for anything at marathon pace, even threshold pace, even faster, 5-10K pace. And I've been using these mostly for those sorts of workouts. I've also done a couple of easy runs in them because they don't feel like a really big, bouncy super shoe. They feel like they're springy. They do feel like they have some power to them and some responsiveness. But I just don't think that they're something that I would race in. But I have heard that people sponsored by New Balance have run very quick times in them over the half and the full. So no doubt that you can. Like I mentioned, I don't think that they'd be as quick as the previous races that I've reviewed, but I have really enjoyed training them, and I will continue to train in them in the next few months, especially for marathon pace, and even some steady state runs at sort of like LT1, the sort of threshold work. So yeah, big fan. I've gotten really lucky actually this round because I've liked all of the shoes. In previous build-ups, I've had shoes sent that I just haven't really liked. Those of you that watched the first series of the Sub 220 Marathon Project, there was a few pairs of shoes I just didn't enjoy at all, and I wore them a few times and gave them to friends. But I would wear all 4 of these again, and I'll continue to wear them all. So, yep, big fan of these. I think the best for marathon pace work, threshold work, maybe save these for race day and wear something like this. The Adidas Prime X. Yeah, so, you know, these are illegal. Look at this. Look at the stack height on that. It's so big. I mean, these are also big, but these are actually above the legal limit for World Athletics to race in. Now, that rule only applies for elite runners. I don't know if this is the best analogy, but I think it's a little bit like the rule for music. Elite athletes are not supposed to run with music, and you're allowed to, I mean, they don't enforce that rule for recreational runners, or even sub-elite runners, I don't think. And I believe it's the case with the shoes as well, but please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I do think you can use these if you're not an elite or a sub-elite runner, and I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't know if that's allowed or not. Please do comment if you believe that it is not allowed. I'm actually not sure. I've tried to research this and it's not clear. But these are definitely not allowed for elite runners, so I'm not allowed to race in them. I don't think that they're any faster than these. I think that they're about the same. They're about the same responsiveness, the same springiness. They're 10 millimeters higher, so Alphafly's right on the legal limit. These ones over the legal limit of 40 millimeters stack height. These are 50, and yeah, it even says it down the bottom there, 50. But I think the difference between these two is that I think these last longer. I've probably done about 400 kilometers, maybe 250, 260 miles in these, and they still feel very springy, which is why I would definitely recommend them for a training shoe to do anything at speed. Marathon pace, half marathon pace, 5K, 10K pace, super comfortable. I don't think that they're very stable. So if you look at that, these are quite narrow, and on a rocky trail, which you could argue maybe no super shoes are ideal for a rocky trail, but these are going to be okay on a rocky trail. They're going to survive. These are probably not. I actually tried to run on a rocky trail on a long run the other day. We accidentally took a wrong turn on a long run, and we had to run on a rocky trail for a little while, and these struggled. They were rolling, and I had to be super careful not to roll my ankle. But on a flat road or a track, no problems. I haven't really tried to go around a sharp turn in them, which sometimes you have to do in a race. And I think they might struggle a little bit with that, but otherwise, totally fine. Definitely recommend. And yeah, I think the massive pro in them is that they last a long time. If you were going to go with one of these two purely for training purposes, I might go with the Prime X because they're going to last longer. Maybe you're probably going to get better value for money because they're about the same in terms of responsiveness and speed to me. And I'll repeat, I do not think these are faster, in my opinion. And I've worn both quite a lot. I think they're about the same. I haven't weighed them and I haven't looked them up, but I believe these are slightly heavier. At least they feel like that underfoot. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of marathon pace work, a lot of long runs around that sort of 4 minutes per kilometre, 6:30 per mile, down to 3:20 per kilometre, 3:15 per kilometre, 5:20 per mile, marathon goal pace. And yeah, really like them. So yeah, like I said, I've gotten lucky this time around. I've enjoyed all 4 shoes. I will continue to train in all 4. And honestly, if Top Running didn't send me anything more this training block, I'd be more than happy to just keep training in these 4. I've mostly been doing my mileage in these. I would say almost maybe 70% of the mileage. And then I've hardly been using these because I've been saving them for race day and just been alternating between these 2 for the speed work. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching. And once again, huge thanks to Top for Running for supporting this video series and allowing me to try out all the latest shoes. I'm looking forward to what I'm getting next. I actually have no idea at this point, but I should be told in the next few days. So until the next review, I hope that you enjoy the rest of this video series.